Hello, good morning and good afternoon, depending on where you are. I'm Maureen Blanford. I'm VP of Marketing here at GiveSmart, and welcome to all of you fabulous fundraisers. These are trying times for sure, but we here at GiveSmart are all flabbergasted to see results from brilliant fundraisers across the country, and we couldn't not share. So today is the 8th episode in our Pivot Success series in the hopes that we can continue to inspire each other in the art of the possible. And today we're bringing you an unusual take, a team that pivoted to year-round long ago, certainly prior to all this, and had some really interesting results to share, and highlighting elements that nearly everyone, every organization can take advantage of. So today we are joined by the fabulous Lisa Adler with the Parents Association of Colfax Elementary, and she stopped by to share her story. Lisa, thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's bittersweet because I should be knee deep in our silent auction prep for our event, which should have been happening this Saturday. So I'm happy to be here and share some of our ideas with you all today instead.
We're delighted. And yes, there's just such mixed blessings these days. Also joining us today are our very own Susanna Crawford, Lead Customer Success Manager, and Patrick Clore, GiveSmart's Head of Customer Insights, both of whom are deeply experienced fundraisers in their own right and closest to our data on the over 1,100 customers who've had to pivot since mid-March. Susanna, Patrick, thanks also to you for joining.
Thanks for having us. Excited to be here.
All right, terrific. So I just wanted to share a couple of things about resources going forward. I know y'all get a lot of emails from us, but the customer success stories, which we can populate in the chat, just want you to see those there, which are nice color and kind of quantitative data. And then also our Outside the Room series, which is really focused on our Outside the Room content, really focused on helping fundraisers understand all the fundraising elements available to them outside of the big room, the big gala. Also, if you want to follow along with the conversation today and want to tweet along either Outside the Room or GiveSmart Power Up, you are more than welcome. With that, today let's just get a pulse on how y'all are feeling. So how many of you are feeling like, now what? How many of you are starting to refigure 2020? And how many of you are kind of already in the like, all right, this is the new normal, let's go. So if you guys can weigh in, and Lisa, while they're weighing in, can you give us just a high level on your mission and what's important to your team to be able to fundraise the programs you support?
Yeah, sure. Basically, PACE exists to raise money to fill in the blanks by LAUSD, which is our school district, and basically anything that they don't provide for our schools. So first and foremost, teachers' aides to reduce the ratio of students to teachers in the classroom. That's a huge amount of the money that we raise. And then in addition to that, we also raise to fund teaching staff, facilities and supplies for our science department, our art, music and computer technology. And then there's also some other enrichments that we fund as well. We have a school farm on site with 2 pigs and 2 sheep and chickens and ducks and everything. And then we also have a Colfax garden growing vegetables and showing the kids a different sort of thing. So that's what we do.
Perfect, love it. And with that, Kelsey, hopefully that's given everyone time to weigh in. So Patrick, you are deep in our data. Does this ring true for what you're seeing?
It does, and it's awesome to see. I think, you know, we've looked at this the past 8 weeks, as you mentioned, with the same question. Part of the reason of the same question is just to kind of see what the trend is. And I think this definitely corresponds with what we're seeing, where I think people, the panic of the first option of now what, I think seems to have dissipated a good amount. And then it's, you know, it just kind of depends where you are in the overall fundraising cycle. So I think, you know, seeing a lot of people starting to refigure makes sense because, you know, the spring event season, kind of similar to Lisa's team, I think comes to a close right around this week or, you know, next week. So makes a world of sense that, you know, as we look towards the summer, that people are trying to figure out what's next.
Terrific, thanks, man. All right, so here's what we're going to cover today. So how the PACE team got ahead of the fundraising curve, which is an interesting story. We're going to definitely talk about donor stewardship all year round and how you can get your donors close and keep them close. Patrick will wrap us up with some data and results, and then of course Lisa, along with the team, will be sticking around to answer some questions. So go ahead and populate the questions as you have them, and then we will get those distributed and take care of them here in about 25 minutes. Okay, so for Lisa's team, it's not been so much of a now what, but more of a what now. So Lisa, just really high level, I know y'all have been doing year-round fundraising for a while. Tell us how long and kind of what's different now for you.
Yeah, we've been doing year-round fundraising for decades at this school, and so each year really our mission is to just improve upon what we've already got in place, and this system really highlighted to us a way that we could improve our silent auction, first of all, and you know, instead of having bid sheets and all of that paperwork, to move to online, we could reach a new audience. And so once we took that system and started working with it, it actually highlighted things that we could do with our other fundraisers, and how we could reach our community in a way that they would much rather be reached instead of in person.
Perfect. So Susanna, can you guide us through with Lisa the fundraising elements that have been most successful for them?
Absolutely. So a common question that we get is, you know, how do we use what we already have? What are the different types of elements and campaigns that we can do, and what are others using? So I've had a fantastic privilege to work with Lisa and the PACE team over the last few years, and we've really dug into this. To start, what you're seeing in front of you this is the annual biggest fundraiser for PACE. This is the World Fair, the one that we should be having this weekend.
Yeah.
And what you're seeing on the side of this is what we call the categories in the site. Just to kind of, you know, take it high level, is when planning your year-round fundraising, we're asking these questions and we're really deciding what can we do. These categories just kind of represent the fact that you could do a raffle, you could do sign-up parties, you could do all these different things. And by listing it in the categories, you can, you know, hide items, show items at different times to create these different categories and to make it very easy for people to see what types of campaigns you do have over the year. So this is just an example of that. And we can keep going to the next slide as well. So another question we get, you know, is how do we use this and how do we use what we already have? Something that I'll let Lisa talk on that she's done amazing is utilize the resources around her. So the question is really, who do we have right at our, you know, at our people that we want to keep engaged? How can we keep our donors engaged? How can we keep our parents engaged and our boards, constituents, alumni? And so creating, you know, different things that people can do to stay involved and really help your mission in a specific way is a fantastic idea to even see what is possible and start getting that nailed down. So I'll hand it over to Lisa to describe a little bit about how she did that with this classroom basket.
Oh, sure. So classroom baskets, I think, in schools are quite common. For us, it's always the biggest earner in our tent, mostly because we have a terrific build team who spend entire days building each basket, and it ends up being something larger than life, literally. But the way that we do it is obviously take each classroom, have a list of themes that people can choose to sign up to. So whatever speaks to their parents or children in that class, so they're invested in that topic. We previously allocated the topic or the themes to each classroom, and that was met with some varied responses because some parents didn't like their theme. So we took a different approach last year, which worked really well, that they could sign up to their own one, or suggest one if we hadn't come up with something that they had either connection to, perhaps they had a parent who worked at Mattel, for example, and could get lots and lots of toys at a very big discount. So that was the first thing we did. And then what we ask our parents to do in each classroom is donate something of any value. It can be tiny. Each person donates something towards their classroom's basket, and all of those items together make something really fantastic to be able to auction off. This last year, in order to try and really get enthusiasm behind it, because sometimes it can be seen as quite hard work to pull that together, we decided to put in place a competition. And so for each of our room parents, we said to them, you know, sort of the basket that raises the most money at the fair last year, that class would get a ice cream party for all of the kids. And in addition to that, the room parent who had the job to pull that all together would win a Google Home Mini. So we saw a lot more enthusiasm, surprise, surprise, from the classrooms, and they really stepped up the game, and we had the best ever classroom baskets we've seen in years.
Love it.
Fantastic. Thanks, Lisa. And I will say too, from being at that event, she really does mean the baskets are larger than life. They are huge and fun and very exciting for everyone who's involved. So I love that, using what you have to be strategic from the beginning of what you can do. Another thought on that is we have right here a screenshot of items with no bids. You know, during your campaigns too, you have the ability to get strategic as well. So if you're not seeing the success that you're going for within those different campaigns, you can use things like items with no bid text, or, you know, promoting those items in different ways, sending messages out to let people know and really utilize that communication to push different items, and kind of keep track of the data as you go for different items to make sure that you're really reaching that success. So that's been really fun with Lisa. We discounted a lot of items in the middle of her auction last year, and it was a great strategic way to, you know, sell out and raise a lot of money. And you can go to the next slide on that, Maureen. Fantastic. A common question that we're hearing a lot is, how do we continue to get revenue off of sponsorships and tickets, right? Without that room, tickets are almost a hinder to the amount of people that you can connect with and relay your message to, potential donors, potential bidders. So I love what Lisa did here. She created sponsorships that have different types of benefits that have no tickets attached. So these are things that organizations can do right now to continue that revenue in. You can get creative with how you're publishing them online, or, you know, maybe they receive a goodie bag or some sort to kind of continue with your campaign and to increase engagement and overall revenue. Great. Keep moving on. So we're going to talk about the online store that they created, which is so fun. This is their Spiritware collection, and they were able to move all of their items online to be able to be sold directly through GiveSmart. The great thing about this, in the creative way that Lisa did this, is on the next slide, Maureen. And what they did here is they were able to take these items for purchase and put them on an order form page. Usually, this order form page would be used for ticketing, where you have your ticket types, your information, where your purchaser information, and how you pay. Lisa and her team were super creative and put all of these items onto the order form, so it makes an amazing guest experience. Lisa, I'm curious, how did people respond to this one?
Absolutely loved it. Main reason is most of us do our shopping online all the time, and to be able to literally go down an order form and click, right, I want 2 of those, yeah, each kid wants 1 of those, okay, yeah, I want 1 of those in that size, and then just have a shopping basket at the end that they just paid 1 fee on their credit card, 1 bill, and then it was done, instead of receiving all of those order forms back in the backpack, and then, oh, forgotten to hand in time, oh, now my kid's crying because they haven't received their sweatshirt that everybody else is wearing. So yeah, it was received really well, and it meant that we could track very easily how much we'd raised from that campaign.
Fantastic. That's great news. yeah, there's a lot of different ways that we can utilize these sites. And another note on that too, when you're thinking about year-round fundraising, we really like to talk about, what are the different types of groups that we're communicating with? So you may have your major donors, you may have a parent social, right? Like you can see this one, different types of segments, and how do you create campaigns to really target those? So this is an example of a parent social that they created on the site. And then Maureen, if you want to go to the next slide as well, you'll be able to see another example of this, which is sign-up parties that were able to be done. So this is more aimed towards children, but I do just want to point out that sign-up parties don't have to be in person. We're not limited at this time period of the world, and you can do virtual sign-up parties through Zoom or through different types of, interactive softwares. So this is a way that they've sold this online, made it really easy for people to come on and, get in with people, connect with people. And last one on here, something that they did amazing, is how do we actually do this, right? So if we put this on the site, what does that really look like? Well, the main thing is communicating very clearly. So something, again, that Pace did fantastic is they just made it all on the website. They put it directly on the homepage. Here's what you need to know. Here's all the questions. One, it saves Pace, I'm sure, time, and Lisa, you can speak on that, but I'm sure it saves you time as well by having to answer the same question. But it also makes, safeguard as well if people come back and say, well, this wasn't written in, the fine print, as you can see there. You do have that, and we do have the capability to get that out there now. The more communication you can give at any point, the easier that this is going to be year round.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest saving grace for the party book moving online, honestly, is that often the hosts only have a certain number of spots available that they can physically, when we were allowed to be together, actually hold in their house or whatever else. And in years gone by, we had that in our silent auction tent, and we would have to literally jump across the table to stop people signing up to parties because they were full. So this is closed. Once it's run out, that's it, and you go on the waiting list.
Love it. Okay, let's now talk about donor stewardship all year round. Our research that we've done at Community Brands clearly shows that donors are willing to give 4 to 10 times a year, which is kind of a broad spread, but I think the salient point there is people are willing to support you more than once a year, certainly. So Susanna, can you walk us through specifically some of the tools and tactics that can help us keep donors close, even if it doesn't generate revenue?
Absolutely, happy to. So the first one here is something so creative. I love this. Lisa gave me a call one day a few years ago, and she had this brilliant idea. And what they're doing is they've created a DIY campaign. With GiveSmart, you have unlimited DIY campaigns for the 12 months that you're with us. So she created this campaign. And really, they just use it for announcements. So it's a text tool, which all their constituents have been downloaded into. And they're using that to let people know certain things, as well as, I do want to put a plug here that we do have some verbiage too that for courtesy, writing to people, text stop to stop, help to help. So people, they're getting downloaded in, but they do have the option to opt out of that text message.
I'm curious, Lisa, if you've gotten just sort of one-to-one, not electronic, but any kind of feedback from your community that is anyone concerned they're getting too many texts, or, what kind of feedback have you had there?
We've been careful not to overuse this, I have to be honest. So, this is life-changing, I have to say. And when I spoke to Susanna, I was like, okay, I don't know whether we're allowed to do this, but because there are many tools out there that do this and cost a lot of money. So we're very grateful that we are able to have a campaign like this. But obviously, if you start getting too many texts, then you switch off and you log yourself out, and then you won't receive any more. So we were very conscious about that. And at the same time, our school principal has a different system through the district that is also sending text messages periodically. So we really didn't want to overdo it, but things like reminding people to come to our parent association meetings, you know, don't forget to come tonight, 6 o'clock. That was a really helpful reminder for people. And we got an overwhelming response the first time that we did this at our association meeting to say, thank you for sending that. It came straight to my cell phone. I could read the message. It reminded me, instead of sorting through maybe hundreds of emails to remind myself to go to something. So it's been a really, really useful feature for us.
That's awesome. And I loved, as we were all talking about this and kind of getting things together, Lisa's comment of, well, wait, if we talk about it, is that bad? Because we don't want it to go away. And I think it's, you know, similar to, as we talked about the putting the storefront and everything, you know, one of the things that resonates the most that I'd encourage everybody to get excited by is, with one sunk cost, how much can you do? And I think that's the thing that Lisa's team did an amazing job of really maximizing the ROI on the spend that they already incurred in terms of the platform. And I think the text messaging one, you know, we'd done some analysis and it came back that 75% of people prefer a text message over an email. And I think similar to probably everybody in the world with an email at the moment, how many do you get, especially at current times, that you just immediately delete right away versus 98% of text messages are actually open and looked through. So I think a great example of not only leveraging, you know, the tools at your disposal, but meeting people where they are and making a little bit more convenient to them. And I think in particular, you know, using it, and as you think about doing year round, using the same systems year round, because obviously there's the administrative burden that's lifted from just using one tool. But from a donor standpoint, when I see it, okay, awesome, it's Pace getting me, and they kind of, you know, the message history they can see and different things like that. So, you know, there's a lot of amazing things, but when we kind of stumbled across this and I got a chance to learn from Lisa and Susanna how they did it, definitely sticks out, because I think from a sweat equity and creativity standpoint, definitely one of the cooler things we've seen.
Thanks, man.
Okay, I'll jump back in here. So we have this one right here, which is the kids lottery. So what this was is people were able to purchase tickets up to a certain amount, and then one winner was drawn. And the kind of point with this one too is just that engagement is key. Keeping people going with you on your site, staying engaged. It's easy to get lost right now with all the things coming at us and different things going on, right? It's just another way to keep people engaged. Little purchases add up. We know that. Obviously, this looks really fun, and there's definitely, I know there's ride some rides, have lunch, but again, just to reiterate, a lot of things can be done virtually now. You know, and later on down the road, if you extend times that people have the availability to use a package, that's also an option for you to, you know, extend those or move online to virtual interaction. So you can continue to do campaigns around like that.
Lisa, has this been something you've done for years, the kids lottery piece?
Yes, but it was very laborious. So literally we would order raffle books and we would stand at the gates at the school and sell physical tickets, and then we'd have a ticket sorting party where a group of parents would get together one night and sort them into bags, and then the Monday morning came round, and then literally 40 minutes was taken up of an assembly where the principal would draw the winners out each time. So not only were the teachers worried that this was eating into their teaching time, but also it was a lot of effort on behalf of getting groups together to run this kind of thing. So we tried it, we threw it online, and we still allowed people to buy tickets at the gates as well if they wished. Some people are not moved over to an online mode, but we found we sold exponentially so many more tickets this way, because people could buy 100 at a time and they didn't have to write in the stub of the raffle ticket, you know, sort of what their child's name and classroom was. It was all logged this way. And then for the draw, we just used a random number generator. So when we printed a report, it showed Lisa Adler had bought 100 Principal for the Day tickets, and then we happened to randomly pick number 38. Oh, look, that was Lisa Adler who won. So it made it so easy and took away the burden on the school and also on the parent group.
Fantastic.
Yep, go on, Susanna.
Sorry, I was just gonna say raffles are fantastic and they're been used all around. I'll say too, something that we're seeing really hot right now is people are asking, you know, what can I use with what I already have? And my first thought is, do you have anything that people could use at home right now? People are bored and people are looking for stuff to do. So any type of raffle, I've seen, as an example, I've seen someone do a like COVID-19 raffle with a basket for toilet paper and wine, right? So how can you use what you have, get creative to get this start going now?
Wow, wasn't expecting that combo, Susanna, but love it.
All right, moving into this one, I'm actually going to kind of let Lisa talk over this too. This is a way that she innovated to create something that was not necessarily for everyone, where there was a lottery in it, and so she made it a little more equal and fair, and I'll let her kick that off.
Thank you. So we're really fortunate that a local music academy in Burbank work with our local schools and offer 100 spots to children at each of the schools. So 100 spots for our school for children to sign up to be part of a rock band. And what that means is for 5 weeks, they go and attend a class with the Burbank Music Academy, learn how to play a specific song on an instrument, or they could be the singer or whatever. And then that group then perform at our fundraiser, which then happens at school site. And we, you know, use that event to sell tchotchkes and inflatable guitars and food and all the jazz. But it's totally free for anybody to participate as a child. However, we have 650 odd students. So what we found was year on year, the time that people would start lining up outside school was earlier and earlier in order to hand in these application forms to be one of those students accepted. And it was getting ridiculous. It was 5 o'clock in the morning and we'd have hundreds of parents queued up around the school, which was not great to have people hanging around on the street at that time in the morning. Also, it meant that those parents who were unable to leave their kids at that time in the morning, it wasn't fair on them. So in order to make this accessible to all of the parents, we put this online. The cost was free, and it really just meant that 100 spots, you would sign up to a spot at whenever we launched it, which I think was in the evening of one weekday, so that it was maximizing reaching all the parents. And as I told the team yesterday, the first time we tried this, literally it went live at 8 o'clock, and by 8:01 all 100 spots were taken. It was amazing to see it happen, but it was fair, and you know, nobody could say that, you know, they weren't given the same ample chance.
Yeah.
Love it.
Great way to engage people. And the last one is just, you know, while you're planning your year-round fundraising, think about all the other types of programs and affiliates that you can use to continue that fundraising throughout the year. This is a great example of what PACE is doing, as well as just encouraging you to, you know, again, go back to the communication of making something simple look like this and putting it back on that GiveSmart homepage or wherever it is that people are seeing it. You know, you can see there's the Colfax parents, social media here with the box tops. How do you get those promotional things out and continue that within your year of engagement?
Perfect. Gosh, that was a lot of really great examples. So Susanna and Lisa, you guys get to take a break for a moment. We're gonna turn things over to Patrick to talk about just some interesting data and results that he saw over the course of these campaigns. Patrick?
Absolutely. So one of the things, as we talk about the topic of year-round fundraising and engaging stewardship all year round, I was curious to just run some analysis on exactly what the fundraising revenue impact that has. And so the data we have here is actually across our entire database. So we looked at it's a little over 10,000 campaigns that ran last year and examined organizations who ran just one fundraising campaign compared to those who ran 2 or 3 within the same calendar year. And not only is more isn't less a great phrase, but it rang true because doing a little bit more generated more fundraising revenue for the organization. So those who ran a second campaign saw a 49% increase in terms of the fundraising revenue. Those who did 3 campaigns, it was a 64% campaign, and then we didn't go 4 and above because that's too much time spent in Excel. But I think more than anything, it's one thing to talk about doing it, but it was very encouraging to see in something that I hopefully excites people that the juice is worth the squeeze, so to say. But then knowing kind of on the next slide here that to get a little bit more current in terms of the exact trends that we're seeing at present, is what we wanted to do is we juxtaposed January and February of this current year, which are kind of full normal events where it's staffed, unstaffed events, and examine that in comparison to the last 4 weeks. And one of the most encouraging things that rang out was the participation level. So, while we are seeing a lower amount of donors kind of in each campaign, the most encouraging thing that I've seen over the past few weeks is instead of 7 out of every 100 people participating, 21 out of every 100 people are participating. So I think, as you examine what to do with the data and how to maximize things throughout the course of a calendar year, those are people who they donated, they bid. Maybe they didn't win on an auction item, but they were actively engaged. And then similarly, seeing just the kind of trend of silent auctions still remaining, obviously a cash cow in terms of revenue generation, but that donations have surpassed all other categories in terms of the largest source of fundraising revenue throughout the entire platform. And then, the instant buys definitely makes sense. And I think some of the examples actually that we walked through of what Lisa's team has done, throughout their history makes sense to why I think instant buys is something that definitely is getting an increase. And then the last slide is, as we talk about instant buys and different things like that, is how much would you value 1% is something I encourage people to examine as you're getting ready for the rest of the year. So what we did is we took a look at the past few weeks, what happens after the event. So you put all the time and effort into getting traffic to the site, you get all the solicitations, you get everybody invited, you pull it off. But I think anybody in the fundraising space, the event planning space, knows this more than most, that you're not done when you're done. And so what I mean by that is we've seen organizations that have had great success where the first and second week after the campaign ends, they're still generating revenue. And I think things such as, I know in the first episode of this with Huntington Christian School, they kind of did a raffle after the fact, or I think with Lisa's team doing the text tool and different things like this. So if my event ended and we just raised $50,000 as we look at kind of the sample scenario, the trends we're seeing of, okay, hey, wait, if I engage people and it's fresh in their mind and ask for a donation in my thank you follow-up, or when the auction closes and things move to an instant buy, do we actively encourage people to still engage with those items, things of that nature. And so it was very encouraging to see that people are seeing some lift kind of the first and second week out. It definitely does taper off after the second week, which makes sense. I think people kind of move on to it. So capitalizing on the momentum, and really, I mean, you're not done when you're not done. One of the more fun instant buys I think we've seen is somebody auctioned off the naming rights to a sea otter. I lost on that, but I think it's creative things, and when you have people's attention and you've done all the hard work to captivate it, making sure that you maximize it before the donors move on to the next thing, or you get you move on to the next thing in terms of what the organization is looking into.
Love it. All right, we are excuse me, getting some questions in fast and furious here. So please keep populating them. And as ever, If we don't get to your question in this session, because it's often hard to get to all of them, our team will follow up with you today and this week. So first question is actually for Susanna. Can you describe what a sign-up party is?
Absolutely. So a sign-up party would be an instant buy item where people are able to go in and sign up for a certain activity. So what that might look like would be, from a school perspective, that might look like, hang out with second grade teacher, and you set the max capacity to 15 individuals who can purchase that individual item. And then, they hang out and do a pizza party or whatever it is. Could also be a virtual thing. Some other examples of that I've seen from like a museum where you can join in and go on a tour of a certain exhibit. So it's something that you are purchasing on an item to join into an activity.
Perfect. Patrick, has anyone been able to hold a chance auction in person? That would be tickets dropped in bowls to take a chance. I would like to see if there's a way to do that virtually.
I will double check. I mean, there's a few ideas that come top of mind. I think the one thing that can't be replicated in that realm is like, especially with the summer coming up, I know a lot of times people do like a golf ball drop. I think, different things like that where, okay, if you can't get maybe people together, could you still have a golf ball drop and film it live? So I'll take a look at the question to make sure I don't misinterpret it, and we can certainly follow up. But I think, there's definitely a lot of ways to get creative and do it. And I think that's a nice thing with so many mediums today, where you can live stream or bring people into it. It might be, I think to say how Lisa phrased it, it might be a little bit laborious on the organization, because you might have to, put in everybody's thing and write their names as opposed to them writing their name on it. So I think it might be a little bit more administrative burden to kind of facilitate it, but definitely a lot of different ways that stuff like that can be done for sure.
Perfect. Susanna and Lisa, so Lisa first, what fundraising games or raffles have you seen work best virtually? And then Susanna or Patrick, if you're seeing something across the board. But Lisa, for your organization, what's worked better virtually?
For us, it's certainly the kids lottery or kids raffle. So just the fact that, repeating myself, but, the time it took for parents or getting children to write on stubs of raffle tickets to be able to put them in, we were finding that people would only buy 20 or so tickets because by then they're over writing names down. And to move that online really meant that it was very easy for them to select hundreds at a time. I mean, we saw families making $200 purchases of, we'll have 10 of those, 5 of those, 15 of those, instead of just the 20 tickets. So that really exploded for us.
So fun.
Excellent. Susanna or Patrick?
Sure, I can throw out a few. I would say the most popular one that we're seeing right now is a 50-50 raffle. What that means is people buy into it, usually about $25 ticket, could be less, could be more. And at the end of it, you pick a random winner off of that, and that winner receives 50% of the proceeds from that raffle. So your organization gets 50% of what's earned on that. It's very easy, very low weight. That's one. Another one is wine pulls are definitely still doable. You can sell wine through an instant item, and you can do that live stream by, pairing this person gets this bottle, or you can do it very simply by just going, down the list and assigning people to certain bottles. Those are two that are very popular right now.
I think adding on, I think it was fun to see. I know 2 episodes ago we had the Las Vegas Golden Knights and NHL Team Foundation, and they kind of did a player's favorite things, which was very similar to what Lisa's team did with the room baskets. So I think the nice thing is it kind of allows items and packaging where you allow people's personalities to come through, or we saw an organization who probably forced all of their board members, if we would give them the true serum, to do something similar. And kind of bring people in and humanize it. So I think that's one. And the other is, and we have an example that we can put in the chat in just a second here, of an organization, and it's a trend we're seeing a lot, where they're having almost like a registration raffle as a way to encourage people to visit the site, to look at items, different things like this. We had a client in Colorado where I was the random raffle winner, and we returned the item back to them because they just looked at all the users in their system, picked one, and as a way of thanking people for participating, auctioned off some things. So I think, which is, if you have some items that, oh, hey, what do I do with it? Or different ways you want to try kind of like clickbait, for lack of a better phrase, of enticing people. I think that's a great example where I want to get you on the site because I know once you're here, you're going to participate and you'll be involved. So I think even a participation, trophy type thing where you're just recognizing those who came, similar to, I think, with the Google Home example is a great one of kind of adding that in the fact that it generates more excitement. I think kind of those creative, kind of quirky sometimes things seem to be thriving for sure.
Perfect. Going to try and squeeze in a couple more questions. Lisa, does anyone else struggle with the fundraising between the fundraising or development office and the year-round fundraisers by the school's PTO or PTA?
Does anyone else struggle? Sorry, I'm not following the question.
Are you hearing any feedback from your community? I think is the intent of that question, where they're getting asked to donate from multiple organizations within the community.
Yes. So that's a challenge for sure in our area, that all of the schools in the area all want to get donations from local businesses. And so aside from the current challenge we've got, usually we have to jump on silent auction donations very early. So we are working for 9 months of the year ahead of the silent auction collecting items, because absolutely businesses do max out and they run out of charitable giving opportunities. So yeah, it's a big challenge. One thing we've tried to do internally is not ask the same business to donate more than once to us a year. So, for example, our community sponsorship, where we invite businesses to become our annual sponsor. The slide where we had $600 for a gold sponsorship, where you get a banner on our fence of our school, etc., various other benefits to it. If they've done that, we don't then also ask them to donate for stuff that we might want to give out as a freebie for donating for annual giving or silent auction or etc., etc. So between us, we're in the school, we are very conscious that we don't want to keep asking the same businesses for a donation more than once a year for ourselves, because of all the schools asking for those things as well.
Perfect, makes sense. Patrick, quick question. If the data says donation campaigns are working, what are easy ways for us to do those things right now?
I think Susanna had mentioned it. I know in our platform, you just hit a button that says create campaign, and you kind of go. But I think, the first thing I'd encourage is make sure to tell the biggest thing I think that generates returns for people is making sure to tell the impact story. So your contribution of $25 is going to allow us to do X, Y, and Z. So I think making sure that it's there. If you have examples of, for school, for example, if the funds are going towards scholarships or financial aid, having, if you can get someone who has benefited from those services to send in a video and putting that on there. And then I think also, if you have a list of constituents and donors, putting it into the system so you can easily send them a text message, as we kind of alluded to before, of, meet them where they are. So, telling the impact story, and trying to tie that to a human element best as possible. And then I think taking advantage of the data you have at your disposal, so you can immediately spread the message through that. And then obviously leveraging, social media tools and other things like that, in making it very easy to see, and almost making it impossible to miss, are definitely some of the things that I'd recommend for sure.
Great. I'm going to get 2 more in. Susanna, what are some live auction alternatives that fundraisers are trying, and are folks having them in real time?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a lot of alternatives, whether that is a virtual sign-up party type of atmosphere, or, you know, different types of items, physical items, not so much sports games, not so much limited travel. That's the only few things to stay away from. Yes, we are able to do semi-live auctions. So the way that we would do it in this system is we would put them as silent auction items, and we would open up one item at a time. And, you know, we could do it for 5 minutes each item. We could do it for 10 minutes each item. Or the most popular way right now is creating a separate category called a premier items, and having those only available for a specific time frame, and doing extra communications around those items. It is possible to still do a live auction if you have an interactive platform like Zoom or something where you can interact with people as well. So definitely still happening.
Great. Last question. Patrick, what are other naming rights auctions you have seen? 30 seconds.
I mean, animals come to show. We have seen organizations who are in like environmental wildlife protection, where they're going to name a section of an arboretum or a ski hill or different things like that, as well as local institutions who, you know, maybe not necessarily a wing, but, you know, the Maureen entranceway or different things like that. So I think it's almost, you know, take a walk around your building, and are there, you know, simple things. And then we also had one who, and I know as a family I've participated in this, of an organization, then they were in the process of constructing a new building, so decided, hey, what if to maximize the revenue, we kind of had a brick walk up, and people made a contribution, and we'd put their name, so it'd be kind of more memorialized throughout time. So I think, you know, all sorts of creative things, and I think my favorite creative one is they auctioned off the rights to be the MC for their next in-person event. And so I know personally, as someone who would love to be a hype guy on stage one day in life, if things break out the right way, I know that's something that would be fun. So I think also give something to look forward to, and it just, you know, I think doing it in a lighthearted and creative way, and, you know, something that's authentic to the organization and their supporters.
You rock, man. Thank you. I'm sorry to give you the time crunch, but thanks to all of you. Yeah, as you all know by now, we have webinars every week that are here to help you. And with that, thank you so much to Lisa. Thank you, Lisa, for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And thanks also to you, Susanna and Patrick. You guys rock.
Of course, happy to be here.
Thank you.
So we are all here for all of you, and please don't hesitate to reach out if we can help you continue to move towards your goals, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks.